And so, it seems like NetherRealm is working on a Marvel fighting game. At least, that is what we're going to discuss in today's video. What's going on, guys? My name is Blitzwinger, and today we're going to go on ahead and talk about this brand new rumor that has been swirling about NetherRealm, the company that is, of course, most infamous for creating the Mortal Kombat and the Injustice fighting game franchises, working on a brand new Marvel fighting game. I want to hear your opinions and thoughts as well down in the comment section below. What do you think of this rumor? How likely do you think that it will actually play out the way that it's been rumored to? And of course, in addition to that, I am very, very curious about how excited would you be for the potential of NetherRealm doing a fighting game. So let's go on ahead and first and foremost discuss the actual details. So of course, if you don't know, NetherRealm, as I just mentioned before, are famous for creating the Mortal Kombat and the Injustice franchises. And now there's this brand new rumor going around saying that they are working on a Marvel game. Now, let's pause for a second. And also, I do want to mention that a lot of people have now started to swirl another rumor where it's not just a Marvel fighting game, it's actually a Marvel versus DC fighting game. I don't know about that. I feel like the likelihood of that happening is the least likely scenario. For the people that are saying that there's also no way that NetherRealm would actually create a Marvel fighting game, because if you didn't know, Warner Brothers actually owns the studio NetherRealm. Now, if you're putting two and two together, Warner Brothers owns DC Comics as well. So that has made a lot of people jump to the conclusion that since AT&T owns Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers owns DC Comics, why in the heck would they ever permit, and why would they actually create a Marvel fighting game? It's never going to happen. It's not going to be possible, because whether it be Disney and Marvel, they would never approve to work with a competitor, and vice versa. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but TT Games, Traveler's Tales Games, who are the developers that actually make all the Lego titles, they are also owned by Warner Brothers. And as far as I know, they are currently working on a Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga game, which is a Disney property. They have previously released 3 different Marvel games, which of course, once again, owned by Disney and Marvel. So I think that the idea that there's no way of a fighting game being licensed, or I guess the Marvel license being allowed to be used by NetherRealm, being impossible, is kind of ridiculous, because we've already seen it a multitude of times with the Lego games that were made by Traveler's Tales and published by Warner Brothers. So I don't think that there's a 0% chance that it happens. I don't know how likely it is to happen, but boy oh boy, it has me super duper stoked about the possibility of NetherRealm, who in my opinion are the absolute best fighting game developer in the world. I'm not even a huge fan of Mortal Kombat, but when I play that game, I'm like, this is so incredibly well done, whether it be the attention to detail with the animations, the amount of content that they shove into a fighting game, which just feels like incredible value. And then they continue to support it very well with additional DLC. So the fact that they've done the Mortal Kombat franchise and they've done it so well, plus coupled with the fact that they have done an exceptional job with the Injustice games, those are my 2 favorite fighting games of all time. I would love to see the, I guess, video game or the world that NetherRealm would be able to go on ahead and build if they were given the Marvel license. Okay, so now the more exciting part, and that is making an assumption that this game is real. Now let's discuss the possibilities of what could this roster look like. I feel like for a first iteration or a first title, around 20 to maybe 25 characters or so should be a pretty fair estimate as far as a roster. Of course, we could get more characters down the line with DLCs, but let's say we have, let's do somewhere in the middle. We'll do 22 characters, and I'm going to go on ahead and restrict this to 11 villains / anti-heroes and 11 heroes. So I'm going to go on ahead and make my pitch for the 22 characters that I would like to see. Then I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comment section below. Let me know whom you would go on ahead and select for this potential NetherRealm Marvel fighting game. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention, guys, don't forget, if you want to support the channel, grab some Blitzwinger merch. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you to those of you that have been picking up the hoodies lately. Much appreciated. Thank you so very much for your support. Link is in the description. All right, let's let's rock and roll. Selection number 1. We're going to start with the villains. And I mean, what better villain to start with than the one and only Venom? You gotta love Venom. Venom is an absolutely awesome character. And honestly, if they're doing a Marvel fighting game, you better betcha that this guy's in the game. He has to be. I mean, it would be a really fun character to actually play as just because of all the symbiote abilities, like being able to change your fists into like different weapons and stuff. So I think Venom is an absolute lock pick. We're kicking things off with a pretty excellent start as Venom is pick number 1. Pick number 2, wherever Venom is, Spidey can't be too far behind. Of course, Spider-Man is another absolute must-have in the game. Would love to see Spider-Man, of course, go along against Venom. That would be obviously quite spectacular. Now, I know, again, there is kind of a weird murky water as far as the legality of Spider-Man and Venom being possibly in this fighting game. I don't know how all that would work out in terms of like, would they need to get Sony's permission in addition to that, because Sony owns the license for Spider-Man in other mediums aside from the comics. So I'm sure that that would make this a little bit more difficult, but come on. If we're making a pitch for a Marvel fighting game, you gotta have Spidey. You gotta have Venom. So let's see who's next. Now, staying in the Spider-Man realm, another Spidey villain is the one and only Mysterio. Now, the reason why I'm picking Mysterio here is not necessarily because he's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, although I do think he's a pretty awesome villain. I just think that he's a character that lends himself very well towards video games, and I think that seeing him in a fighting game would be awesome, again, because of the fact that he's got all these spells or like illusions that you could go on ahead and use. I think it would be really cool if he had some sort of duplicate ability. There's just lots and lots of possibilities with this one as far as just being a really cool and exciting character to actually play as. So I think that Mysterio would make for a pretty awesome addition to the roster. I mean, come on. You didn't think I forgot about my boy Tony Stark, the one and only Iron Man. Now, Iron Man will probably be the character that could get the most amount of additional gear, because just think about all the possibilities. If they do this fighting game in the style of Injustice, where there's additional gear that you can equip and stuff like that, which I think, by the way, would be incredible. And I think that that would give us so much more value, just in the sense of like, if they do shaders, like imagine how many shader designs you could do for Iron Man, along with different gear pieces, like whether it be a different helmet, different shoulder pads, different arms. Like you could just do a lot, making him look like Thor Buster, mixing and matching pieces from different armors and then recoloring them. I think the possibilities would be insane. Again, an absolutely awesome character that would must appear if there is a fighting game coming up for Marvel. You better betcha Iron Man will be on that roster. Oh, we're hopping back over to the villain side, and over on the villain side, it's the one and only Victor Von Doom, who I think would be an awesome character to play as. I think that he could actually play similar to like maybe Dr. Fate / Raiden, kind of a mix between the two with like electric attacks, but then also the Dr. Fate, like different casting spells where he could be a lot more kind of medium range style character. So I think that Dr. Doom, again, would be not only a great character in the game, but maybe would be an awesome villain for the entire story. Like whatever the campaign will be focused around, I think that Dr. Doom could be the villain that we build towards. And you better betcha that we've got the Captain Salute to the one and only Captain America. We've got him in the game. He has to be in the game, of course. That's another no-brainer. Now, I know, calm down. Sit back down. Yes, you in the back right there. Sit down. Sit down. Stop. Put your keyboard down. I know you're freaking out. First of all, chill, okay? Just hold tight for a second. We'll get to it. Just, we're still early in the list. Calm down. In addition to that, I do want to mention, it would be possible to go on ahead and, I guess, spoiler alert, I do have Falcon on the list, but I think it would be kind of cool if maybe they would have done a shader for Cap, so you could swap him into other different Captain Americas throughout history and throughout time. There's been lots of characters that have taken up that mantle. So again, you could do Sam Wilson, you could do Bucky, you could do Isaiah Bradley. There's lots and lots of options that you could go with. Heck, if you want, you could do John Walker. So there's lots of options that you could go with as far as like redesigning the character while maintaining the combat to be similar. Now, with that in mind, back to the villain side. Now, I know this is going to be a bit of a controversial pick, because a lot of people will say, well, if they have Dr. Doom, why would they also have Thanos? It's probably very unlikely that they would use two crazy, powerful, and valuable, quote-unquote, villains in one game. I agree with that to a certain extent, but I also, again, I'm making a wish list, and I feel like Thanos has to be a villain on that list. I think that he would probably play very similar to like a Darkseid type character that we saw in Injustice. Again, if you're going to go on ahead and put together a list of 11 villains that you get to pick from the Marvel Universe that will be playable in an epic fighting game created by NetherRealm, I mean, I'm putting Thanos on that list. There is no doubt. Plus, I think it could be really interesting to do some gameplay mechanics for him with like the Infinity Gauntlet. Maybe you power up, and then once you have, let's say, only half a bar of health or something, you activate the Infinity Gauntlet, and then you get new abilities or new combos with that. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you could do with the character of Thanos. Bringing down the thunder and the lightning, it's the one and only Thor. You better betcha that we're going to include the God of Thunder on this roster. Once again, I think that with Thor, it would be cool if, again, we got some more shaders that maybe turn him into other characters that have taken up that mantle. If you want, you could even do a Captain America skin. That would be really cool. Of course, in addition to that, you could do Jane Foster, Beta Ray Bill. Like, there's lots of different designs that you could do for him that I think would be cool alternative takes on the character. But we got to include Thor. It's a no-brainer. Moving on. Back to the villains. Now, for those of you that were salty before when I mentioned Thanos and Doctor Doom, now you're really salty. The sodium levels, you're like Salt Bay raining down all the salt in the universe because you are probably unhappy about the fact that I am suggesting to have Ultron in the game as well. But I am, and I think that Ultron would, again, be a cool character to have in the game. I think that trying to draw a comparison to maybe Injustice 2, I would say that Dr. Fate is kind of Dr. Doom-ish. Thanos is sort of in the style of Darkseid. And then Ultron could be kind of like Brainiac. He could have all these other like clones of himself that he could spawn in. Maybe after you like destroy one of his health bars, he like breaks down all the way, but then another Ultron reappears with maybe like a different color scheme. I just think that you could do a lot of really cool visual stuff with the character of Ultron. And again, he is a very significant villain in the Marvel Universe. So again, no brainer putting him on the list. I'm sure you picked up on a bit of a trend here, but I'm definitely giving a lot of praise to the original Avengers, at least the ones from the MCU, because I feel like we have to go on ahead and honor that core team. That is the team that really kind of pushed the entire MCU forward. So we gotta have Black Widow, of course, on the squad. Plus, I think she could be a really fun character to play as, just in terms of the versatility, maybe different like pistol combos to like have a more long range. So she could have maybe kind of a almost like a mix of combos between like Black Canary and Deadshot from the Injustice games. If you've ever played those, I think that could be a really interesting, compelling combination character. So Black Widow, again, no brainer. That's a must have. She's one of the core original MCU Avengers. So we got to place her on the roster. Hold up. It seems like I haven't upset the people who were freaking out about the villains enough. So I put Loki on the team as well, because why not? I think Loki would be, again, another compelling character to have on the squad. Again, not only are these villains important or anti-heroes important, but in terms of like how crucial of a role they have in the Marvel Universe. But I just think that, again, he could be a really interesting character to play as. He could have some sort of freeze abilities, kind of like Sub-Zero, so he could fire like ice balls or something like that. In addition to that, he has the staff, which would make him play a bit differently to some of the other characters. So I'm really trying to weigh not just, oh, is this a cool character? But I'm also thinking like, oh, could you do something interesting from a gameplay perspective with that character? And Loki definitely gets a check box or checks that box on each one of those categories. So again, Loki's on the team. Moving on, back to the hero side we go. I mean, come on, what'd you think? I wasn't gonna go on ahead and put the Hulk on the team? Of course we got to have the Hulk on here. For the people that were freaking out already, because I know they're like, bro, how could he not name the Hulk ahead of these other characters? Of course, we're going to have the Hulk on the squad. He is an absolute must-have. I also think it would be, again, really cool if we could get different variations of the Hulk with certain, like, shaders. So maybe we could get Red Hulk. Maybe we could get Ragnarok Hulk. Maybe we could get World War Hulk. Maybe we could go on ahead and get Gray Hulk, Professor Hulk. The possibilities are endless. You could do a ton of different cool stuff with the Hulk to go on ahead and have different combinations of gear and such. And then, again, from gameplay perspective, I'm sure he would just be kind of a brawler type character like Bane or something like that. But again, that would be a really fun character to play as, to just charge right ahead at Loki and do maybe the puny god finisher move. That could be kind of interesting. Now, I think that this is going to be the most controversial pick on this particular roster, and that is Vulture. I know that people are going to be like, bro, really? What? Vulture? Well, it will make more sense when I discuss the Falcon pick as well. I'm trying to also usually try to almost do like a mirror match where it's like, if you have a certain type of a hero, you try to match a certain type of a counter villain to that hero. And plus, I just think that Vulture would be an interesting character to play as from just a gameplay perspective. The idea of having the wings and different combos, maybe you could fire like certain different like feather types, kind of like almost Green Arrow, where instead of arrows, it would be feathers. And I think it would be one of those kind of like, who the heck has thought of putting Vulture on this squad? But if we get him in the game, I think a lot of us would be pleasantly, hopefully, surprised about how cool of a character, from a gameplay perspective particularly, Vulture could be. Next up, to round out our original MCU Avengers, it is the one and only Hawkeye. Of course, we gotta have him on the squad. Once again, I'm sure people are going to draw the comparison to Green Arrow. Once again, you could do lots of different redesigns with this one. Like if you want to have Kate Bishop Hawkeye, I'm sure that could be done. Maybe it's just an alternate skin so that the gameplay does not actually change, but you could have a different version and somebody else taking up the moniker of Hawkeye. So I think that that could be pretty cool. In addition to that, of course, I think that Hawkeye, super duper important. Like I said, I think that we have to include all of the original MCU Avengers, which means that now the list is going to get very interesting as far as the heroes are concerned, because this is where things are going to get controversial. Some people are going to say, oh, I think you should have Vision on, I think you should have this character on, etc. But that's why there's a comment section down below where you can go on ahead and voice your opinion as well, and we could see what kind of rosters you come up with. Although again, do place that limitation on yourself with 11 villains / anti-heroes and 11 heroes, because I think that could make it a little bit more fun. Now, speaking of anti-heroes, you better betcha we've got the Merc with the mouth, the one and only Deadpool. Again, this is a no-brainer. I'm sure that we would get Deadpool in the game. I think that he could probably do a lot of really cool stuff from a gameplay perspective, just with the variety of weapons that he has, the katanas, the pistols, maybe a rocket launcher. I think his super would be pretty hilarious, especially if they do something where like he could maybe break the fourth wall and like talk to the player as you're delivering the super. He could be a cool character part of the campaign. Again, no brainer, just like a Venom type character where it's like, okay, if you're putting together a list of anti-heroes or villains from the Marvel universe, you got to put Deadpool on there. Next up, we've got the one and only Scarlet Witch. Now, I was trying to think like, okay, which one would I pick? Scarlet or Vision, because of the WandaVision hype and all that. And I was like, okay, which one of those two would be more interesting? And I think Vision could be a really cool DLC character maybe, but if you told me to pick one or the other, I think Scarlet Witch would make for a cooler addition to the roster to begin with. Just again, in terms of the spells, the really cool castings that you could do with her spell powers, I think would be really, really fun. And I think she would just be a really cool character to play as, making her stand out compared to everybody else that we've seen on the roster so far, which is one of the things that went into the decision-making process, is trying to pick characters that would play unique compared to the others. Now, a little while ago, I feel like this would have been a controversial pick, but I think now people are definitely starting to be a lot more hyped for MODOK. And plus, you can see that Marvel is pushing MODOK. He's getting his own Hulu show. He just had his own comic book series. And in addition to that, of course, he was the main villain in Marvel's Avengers. So I think MODOK would be a really cool addition into the game. And once again, you want to talk about unique gameplay, I think MODOK will play unlike any other character on the roster, definitely giving him a check mark as far as just creativity and originality from a gameplay perspective. Next up, we've got the one and only, it's Falcon. Now, again, same thing that I did with WandaVision. I was thinking, okay, who could we have? Bucky or Falcon? And then I thought to myself, okay, Falcon would be really cool to have. Plus, I feel like it would be really awesome if they did go on ahead and give him an actual skin where he's got the Captain America design. So it's like you then gain the abilities of the shield as well. So that would change up your gameplay a little bit. So you got the wings plus the shield. I think that would be really, really sick. And once again, from a gameplay perspective, if you don't like the Vulture pick, I think that Falcon will be a lot easier for people to be like, oh, that would be cool. Because again, even in the show, you could see like all these cool like defensive moves that you can do with the wings. Plus, I think there could be really cool like charge attacks where you can use the boost from the wings. You can go on ahead and again, have a variety of maybe feathers firing off the wings, so that maybe there's like an electric shock attack, and then another one that maybe like stuns, burns, so you could do like different effects. I just think that again, Falcon, no brainer, another cool character, both from a gameplay perspective and importance to the Marvel universe. And so next up, we jump back over to the villain side. By the way, we're almost done with the list, and we are taking a look at Kingpin. Now, Kingpin is the one that I struggled with because it was like, okay, I think he could be a really cool part of the campaign. He could probably be kind of similar to like a Gorilla Grodd type character, where he's just kind of a brute force sort of character, really no particular superpowers for him. So it's a bit of a tough one as far as like gameplay. I don't know how much you could really do as far as just keeping it varied, but I think it'd be kind of cool to almost give him a bit of a pro wrestler sort of persona, just in the sense of just make him like a brute force character where he just does maybe like power bombs and slams, just a brooding hulking character that could go toe to toe with a Hulk, etc. So I think that that could be a pretty cool pick as far as the villain side is concerned, instead of just going on ahead and picking, let's say, Red Hulk, who could be in the game still, just as a shader recolor of the Hulk himself. And so next up, another one that I know is going to be a very controversial pick, and that is Blade. For me personally, Blade is one of my favorite characters. I just think it's a really, really cool character. Plus, those Blade movies were incredibly awesome, at least the first two. But regardless, I'm sure some people would disagree on this one. I just think that Blade has like a perfect kit to be a fighting game character. Like, he just lends himself into a fighting game perfectly, whether it be the fact that he's always got like epic cool martial arts, so you can go on ahead and lean into that, plus katanas, guns, shooting stars, the silver stakes that he throws at vampires. Again, just a no-brainer. I think he could have some really cool combos. Maybe he could even have like some sort of vampire like regain health ability or something like that, like a pool of blood or something. He could be a really cool character to include in this fighting game. And so for the last villain pick, I saved the X-Man for last. We've got the one and only Magneto. I feel like Magneto, again, a character that would play very unique compared to the others. He could go on ahead and like throw different metal objects at the enemy. He could maybe interact with the stage if there are metal components on the stage itself. You can go on ahead and have him be floating in midair, sort of like maybe Shazam or Black Adam or Dr. Fate. Again, it's a character that just lends himself perfectly to a fighting game. That's why he has appeared in Marvel vs. Capcom in the past. And I think that if we do get this Marvel game from NetherRealm, this is another no-brainer character to put on the first roster. Again, if you're building out DLCs or other rosters down the line, we can go on ahead and expand beyond that. But I think in the first game, I think it's a pretty safe bet that we would get Magneto. And last but certainly not least, we've got the one and only Wolverine. I mean, come on, what'd you think? I wasn't going to include Wolverine. Just like I mentioned with Magneto, Wolverine also appeared in those Marvel vs. Capcom games. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer that we would get him as a fighting game character as well. He lends himself once again perfectly to the fighting games with the different combos with his claws. Maybe he could have some sort of healing or regen ability where you can maybe like meter burn or something like that to heal some of your HP because of his self-healing ability. So I think that could be kind of an interesting and compelling mechanic for Wolverine. Again, a no-brainer pick in the one and only Logan. There you have it, guys. That is my pitch for this potentially maybe possibly happening video game. I mean, we don't even know if this thing is actually happening, but regardless, I think it's kind of a fun exercise to go on ahead and see and pitch your own wish list of characters. I know people are going to disagree. I can already hear lots of people screaming and saying, bro, where's Ghost Rider? Where's Black Panther? Where's Cosmic Ghost Rider? Where's Phoenix? Where's the Sentinels? I know, and that's fine. You can go on ahead and put together your own wish list down in the comment section below. Let me know which characters you would go on ahead and love to see if this Marvel game actually comes true. And if, let's say, the first game comes out with, let's say, roughly 20 22 characters or so. Who would you like to see? Thanks all for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below. Hit the thumbs up button. I'll hopefully catch you guys here on the next one. Peace out. See you later, alligators. Bye-bye, everybody.